Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Magadan.
Hoppy cancel.
And welcome back to the channel. Obviously, I told you during our last mock, we're going to be looking at some Major League Baseball predictions. I'm going to be talking about each division winner. And that's going to be this premise of this whole video. And then, of course, I want to mention everybody leave a like, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Seen a little bit of growth. Got a subscriber off the last video. So we're seeing it. It's starting to grow a little bit. And we'll just dive right into it. Hoppy, I'll go ahead and let you lead us off with who you think is going to be fifth in the American League West.
Yeah, the American League West, I don't think much is going to change around here. The Los Angeles Angels are going to struggle once again. This team is going to go as far as Mike Trout can carry them. I just don't know if he can stay healthy for a whole season. I mean, they're going to struggle to win games with him, and they're going to really struggle to win games if and when he inevitably does miss several. So that's why I've put them fifth here. I don't think their pitching is absolutely horrible, but it's just not enough to carry this team.
Yeah, and I like what you said about what Mike Trout can do for the team, because of course he's the phenomenal player that we all wish we got to see his whole career. I mean, it's just constant story is he can't stay healthy. Unfortunately, it is an all-time career ruined by injury. And of course, you talk about little additions that they've made to try to improve the roster. They hired Ron Washington from the Braves to be their manager last season. I think he was a phenomenal hire as a manager. Unfortunately, he's a little bit older. So if he wants to win with this team, it's got to be soon. Again, with the Braves, he is known as one of the best infield coaches in all of Major League Baseball. Produced a consistent defensive front in Atlanta that was always very, very good. So, if anything, maybe he can help these guys out and set them up for the future of their careers, even if he isn't coaching them, in 5 years. And then, like I said about little pieces, they got Jorge Soler from the Braves. That's a friendly deal. We've actually made a lot of trades with this baseball team, and you're seeing, a lot of guys like Tim Anderson. Maybe he can succeed somewhere else. We've seen him fail since his Chicago days. And then, of course, looking at their bench, Travis d'Arnaud, a super nice piece to come off the bench for them, and maybe train up the guy in Logan O'Hoppy, who has the namesake that you share with him in Hoppy there. So he's a fun player.
And I like this team's bullpen too. A few of their bullpen arms are decent. It's just, the starting lineup is not the best in the division. And Ben Joyce is good, Kenley Jansen's good, but outside that, there's a lot of names that are question marks.
Yeah, and like you said, you look at the rotation too. The starting pitching it's going to struggle. I think Yusei was a great add in the starting rotation. Again, I think this team did get better in the offseason. They at least tried to improve the roster, which is always a positive thing because when they had Trout and Ohtani, they never improved. Every year they just kept the same team and rolled it back out there. So at least they're trying to win baseball games. And like you said, Kenley is a great add. They added him really late in the offseason. You grab a guy who's one of the greatest closers that we've got to watch with our eyes. I mean, he's a 400 save guy. And then Ben Joyce, yeah, he's elite. I mean, the dude's throwing 105. So you don't see that very often in any sport of any baseball at all. I mean, we've seen it a couple times from guys being able to put up numbers like that. And for all those combined reasons that me and Hoppy have both talked about, I also have them finishing fifth in this division. And we're going to lead right into number four, Hoppy. I think we share the same thing here as well.
All right, yeah, I have the Athletics fourth here, man. I think this team has some great top end talent. I mean, you take their best hitter in Brent Rooker. He's one of the best hitters in the league, and then they have Mason Miller as well, one of the best closers in baseball. But it's just like there's no one in this lineup that is a definite help to Brent Rooker, and there's really no one on the pitching staff that can help Mason Miller. I do like Shea Langeliers at catcher. He's got some pop at that position, but the rest of the team, I'm just not a big fan of.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm sharing the exact same thing with you here. They're going to be my fourth place team as well. I agree with everything you said about the lineup. It is Brent Rooker and everybody else. I think that the Lawrence Butler extension before the season began was a really good ad for the Athletics. Of course, the day they leave Oakland, they start spending some money. So, I mean, that's pretty much the owner himself saying he wanted to get out of there and finally proving to people that once he got out, he's willing to do something, which is unfortunate for the Oakland fan base because I think they were a great one for a long time. And then other than that, like you said, Shea Langeliers, great piece. Atlanta traded him over there, and he's a really, really great catcher behind the dish. He's one of the better catchers in the league. And then he does give you that upside of being a really good bat, which was kind of unexpected with him. He was just that really good catcher and what he learned to hit. And then if you want to talk about the rotation here, I mean, again, it's a weak one.
Leclerc's not bad off the bullpen as well. I forgot about him, but yeah, outside of those two pitchers that I mentioned, they're not really that great in the pitching area as well.
Yeah, and again, that's part of the reason why they're going to struggle. You look at Luis Severino being kind of their ace, if you want to call him that. They gave him a big time contract in that starting rotation, expecting him to be the ace, and he's had good seasons. But if Luis Severino is the guy you're relying on day in and day out to get you a win at the top of the rotation, it's not pretty. And like you said, you look at the bullpen, it's weak. And Mason Miller, Jose Leclerc at the top of it, very, very good relievers. Those are guys that can both give you extremely valuable innings. And Miller is one of those pieces that if they sign up for a long term, he can maybe get them back to being really good. I think that overall this team could be fun to watch because they're going to be young. They're going to have pieces that are, I mean, they're just exciting players. They have a guy like Estuary Ruiz. When he comes back up potentially later in the year, maybe he brings them that stolen base value, which he was doing at a really high level. And then you look at the injuries for them. The biggest name to look for is Zach Geloff, a second baseman, shortstop combo, but playing a lot more second base than anything. He has a lot of potential. We've seen him, come on the scene and be very good. But a right hand injury, a severe one, on the 24th of March means he's going to miss a lot of time during the regular season. So when he comes back, maybe he adds a little boost to the lineup. And again, I think the lineup can be okay, but the pitching is really bad with this team. After that, we'll be leading the third place team in the American League West, looking at the Houston Astros. Again, another team that me and Hoppy agree on. Hoppy, if you want to say anything about them.
Yeah, we went through before and we just agreed on this whole division, and it's a really easy division to rank for me. I mean, especially the first two we just went over. The three top teams, I think this team can potentially hop and win this division. They have good hitting around Alvarez, who is a great bat, but you got to trust him to stay healthy. And they don't have the best pitching staff in the division either around the bats, who I also think are outshined by some other teams in the division as well.
Yeah, and like you said, the hitting is kind of the key thing for them if they're going to win baseball games. They got to rely on a lineup that is solid. 1 through 6 batters are guys that you can rely on consistently. Again, you're looking at some of these projections from Fangraphs, and I mean the number that sticks out is a 971 OPS projection for Yordan Alvarez, being ranked as the eighth best player on Fangraphs. He is expected to be a MVP candidate as a DH. So if you want to know how good of a hitter he is, that's an example of that. And you look at Altuve, a guy that has been consistently one of the best players in baseball for 10 plus years. A guy that is, potentially one of those 2,500 hit guys at the end of his career. He's moving to left field. How much is that going to affect him in the lineup? How much is that going to affect their defense? Because if you've watched spring training, he's been horrible in left field. It's a second baseman, so already doesn't have a very good arm. That's an issue in the outfield. And on top of that, he's learning a position he's never played. And I personally don't get it. I just don't love it. I don't think it's a good move. I know you want to get Dubon in the lineup, but is Dubon good enough to warrant moving your best player other than, Alvarez to the outfield? I just don't agree with it a lot. That's the big reason for me bumping him down here. And of course, me and you have both talked about this off camera. Cam Smith is a guy that has a ton of potential. Will he unlock that this year and give them a bat? If not, again, this lineup could be a little bit weaker than the rest of the division, which is a key piece of that. Hoppy, if you want to talk about anything about these pitchers that they have.
Yeah, man, the reason I put the next team above them was because of the pitching that the next team has. I'll go ahead and save that for later, but I like this team's batting better than the team that I put second. I like this team's pitching, not so much. The relievers are weak. I think Hader's a little bit too old to still be a closer. He should probably be a middle reliever if your team's really got a good pin at this point. Valdez is okay, but outside that, I don't love the starters either.
Yeah, and again, you're looking at a rotation in Valdez and Ronald Blanco, who had consistency last season. They may be getting Lance McCullers back at some point this year. Spencer Arrighetti has had success at times, but again, it's just not a rotation to fall in love with. Hunter Brown, a younger player that maybe we see pop on the scene. Fangraphs is giving him some love, ranking him as the 27th best pitcher on their system, so they expect him to have a good year. I don't know if he will. And then, like you said, the bullpen, you got Brian Abreu, you've got Josh Hader. That is some top end relievers. Hader maybe not as good as he once was as a closer. Maybe he should give that job to Abreu and let him do it, a little bit younger reliever. But the rest of the bullpen is a little bit weak after that. So it's definitely something to worry about if you're an Astros fan for next season. Moving into the second place team that we both have agreed on again in the AL West, we're looking at the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, and I'll start us off here just by saying this is the exact opposite case of the Astros. I mean, this team is where they are because of pitching. You look at Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, Luis Castillo, those are all three starters that, even though the hitters on this team aren't great, you just see them in your mind winning a lot of games just because how good they are. The pen is also pretty good. Munez is a really good closer, in my opinion. I would have him ranked higher than 17th. Outside of that, it's not the greatest pen, but the starters are the real reason that I have this team second.
Yeah, and we're talking about a rotation that has Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, and they're adding back George Kirby. That is a filthy rotation. I mean, that is five guys that have all-star potential. That's unbelievable. We're talking about one of the best rotations in baseball, if not the best rotation in baseball. It's going to win them a lot of games. We scroll up a little bit. Look at this lineup. Again, you realize we start at the pitching because that's the point to talk about. The lineup is a little bit weak. Again, you're looking at Victor Robles, a guy that hasn't had much success in his career. Maybe he's found something. He is that speed guy that can give you some really good outfield play. Then you look at Julio Rodriguez. I mean, this guy is either an MVP candidate or having a bad year. It's kind of crazy how much, in the first couple seasons, we've seen the complete opposites of Rodriguez as a player. Cal Raleigh just got a massive extension, great hitting catcher, pretty solid behind the dish. I like him a lot as a player. And then I love the addition of Randy Arozarena. He's a very clutch player. When you need hits, he comes up and does those things. But you look at the rest of this lineup, and it's pretty awful, honestly. It's definitely worse than that Astros bottom four, and that's definitely the scary thing with the Seattle Mariners is can their pitching win them baseball games?
Yeah, I like to just add into the hitting side, man. This team's really just missing one bat, and that's if everyone on the team has their best possible outcome. Even if Julio, Cal Riley, Randy Arozarena all play their best, they're missing one more bat to really put them over the top.
And after that, we're going to number one. We both have agreed on this one as well. Of course, there's only one team left. It's the Texas Rangers, an elite lineup.
Yeah, this lineup is absolutely correct. You said it, elite. Top to bottom, you got Heim, a good hitter for a catcher, and you have your catcher in your nine spot, which is if you have a good hitter at every position, that's what you want. Jake Berger got pop. Uh, don't think Tavares will actually end up starting on this team. I think it will probably be Evan Carter. He's got speed and he popped off one year in the playoffs. I like Young, and I haven't mentioned any other stars.
Yeah.
Langford is due for a breakout. Seager's an all-time great hitting shortstop when healthy, and Simeon's an all-star. I really like this squad in the running for the best top to bottom lineup in baseball for me.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, this team is filthy. This lineup is unbelievable. It is probably the best lineup in the American League, and I don't think that's a stretch. You're looking at Marcus Semien, like you said, a perennial all-star second baseman, known for his great defense, but he also has a great bat. Corey Seager, this guy's unbelievable. I mean, he just is. He is one of the best shortstops that we will get to watch when we watch baseball. He's that good. Wyatt Langford is phenomenal. Watch this guy play in college. Wyatt Langford is due to be I'm talking MVP level player in the next 3 to 5 years. That's how good Wyatt Langford is. Jock Peterson, you know what he brings you as a DH. He's going to give you a massive power bat, and he's also going to be pretty consistent. He has been since those days with the Atlanta Braves, right in that short little gap from the Dodgers to the Braves. He struggled a little bit. He found it again then. And then Adolis Garcia. I mean, that's your fifth guy. This is a guy he looks like he's juiced out of his mind. He's freaking huge. He hits bombs. I mean, it's a really fun lineup, honestly. And then you look at this pitching staff. This is a pretty experienced pitching staff at the top of the board with an Evaldi and a DeGrom. But then you're bringing in these rookies, these young guys, these guys that we expect to be successful in the MLB, and Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. If you remember the Kumar Rocker situation, he was drafted at the 11th pick to the Mets. The Mets said, "Nah, we're good. We're not signing you." He goes back to college, and then he dominates again like he did the year before. And guess who gets him? The Rangers. And now they're sitting here thinking, how did we end up with Kumar Rocker? I mean, this is awesome. This guy's great. This guy's a top 10 pick. And now he's sitting on this team. Again, I love this pitching staff. This is maybe an underrated pitching staff. And if Kumar and Jack Leiter is as good as I think they can be, I'm telling you, man, watch this team. This is one of the best teams in the American League.
Yeah, just to add a few things to the pitching side, man. This team is a bullpen away from maybe still in the best roster position away from the Dodgers. I mean, You look at their pitching, not quite as good as the Dodgers. You look at their lineup, right up there with the Dodgers, if not better. And they really don't have a bullpen to compete with the Dodgers yet, but this team's really good.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is they haven't put together a very good bullpen. You're relying on Chris Martin to be a stud. You got to have Chris Martin coming out there every day, pitching like a beast out of the bullpen. You need your five starters going very deep in games to get them in situations where they can win. But the thing is, that offense can score a ton of runs. So your bullpen doesn't have to be amazing. It's just got to get innings, just eat innings.
Got to
Get
close out games. It's got to close out games that should be winnable.
Rolling on past the AL West, moving into the AL Central. Going to start with our number five team here, the Chicago White Sox. We both have agreed on this one.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy choice for the fifth team in division and a very questionably easy choice for the worst team in baseball. This team's most hopeful player is Luis Robert Jr., and I don't think too many people are hopeful on him anymore. You look at a lineup that's not very good and a pitching staff that is also not very good, so I really don't see how you have this team anywhere but fifth.
Yeah. If you have this team higher than fifth in this division, which is actually a decently strong division above this, again, competitive, it's questionable because this team is assembled on paper one of the worst teams I've seen put on paper. You mentioned the starting pitching, which we'll talk about in just a second, but you look at the lineup. I mean, Miguel Vargas, not a bad player, is got a little bit of experience in the majors. Still isn't very good to be your leadoff guy. Luis Robert, he has got a ton of potential. He was great for a little while, but he just struggled mightily last season. And Fangraphs is not high on him at all. They're projecting him to be worse than Andrew Vaughn. So interesting to look at because this guy was considered a guy that could have been traded for a king's ransom just 2 years ago. Benintendi, always been known for super high batting average. Didn't have a high batting average last year. So he's lost what he was great at. And then after that, this lineup is just not much to talk about. There's some decent guys in here that can be some good fielders. Michael A. Taylor, one of those guys in the outfield that will, put up some pretty good defensive stats. But this lineup is absolutely horrible. And then you look at this rotation again, Hoppy. What do you think about that?
I know absolutely none of them outside of Mike Clevenger. These are a bunch of no names. They're gonna have to like grow wings to carry this batting lineup. If they want to win any games, they're gonna have to step up and do something they've never done before.
Yeah, and it's pretty horrible. I mean, Sean Burke is the headliner. He's the guy starting on opening day for them. He's a young guy. He can have some potential. Again, we've seen that this is the guy they expect to be their future guy. They just had one and traded him away. And yeah, I mean, it's just awful. It really is. It's a really bad rotation. It's not a very good lineup. It's a pretty horrible bullpen. When your bullpen's headlined by Mike Clevenger at 34 years of age, it's scary. This is probably the worst team in baseball. I don't expect a lot to come of them. They will get back Mike Tauchman after a little while with a hamstring, but again, he's also 34. He will slot into that lineup and probably be one of their better bats. It's ugly. I hate it for Chicago White Sox fans.
And I think this team was ranked 30th when MLB did their preseason power rank. So
After that, we've kind of disagreed on this fourth spot. Now, again, a very competitive division, so we'll see where they go one through four. Hoppy, I'll let you talk about the team you have next.
yeah, I got the Royals finishing fourth in this division. I mean, they have the potential to go up to the three spot, but I don't see them getting first. I mean, they could go as high as two in my eyes. I like Jonathan India. I've heard some talk about him not hitting as good in this non-hitter friendly stadium, but that's just not going to be the case. He's not a guy that is benefited by Hitter Stadium. He's a guy that has a good eye. He swings the bat when the pitch is a strike. So I think he'll be good. Not great, though. And Bobby Witt's the only great bat on this team. They have some good bats in Perez. He's a good batter for a catcher, especially. But outside of Witt, I just don't see any true world beaters on this team. And the same thing goes for the pitching. Not bad, not great. It's the way I view this team, and that's why I put them fourth.
Yeah, and with you having them at fourth, I'll go ahead and let you talk about that rotation. You can get a good little look at it here and see if there's anything you want to say.
Yeah, like I said, I don't hate this pitching staff here. Urseg has some potential. I don't hate the bullpen. The pitchers, you got Roggins and Lugo, but I don't know much about the other three guys in there.
Yeah, and off that, I'm going to go to the team I have sitting in the fourth place spot, which is going to be the Minnesota Twins. For me, the reason I'm a little bit lower on this team than I am the team that you just talked about is this lineup. It worries me a lot when your top two players are Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton. We know what they've done in their careers, and that's get hurt a lot. It's unfortunate. Again, Buxton's a guy that in his career, when he has succeeded, it's been really fun to watch him play. He is a top tier player. But he's just missed so many games over the last 5 seasons. Correa is an awesome shortstop. And then other than that, I don't love this lineup at all. You're looking at a guy, Matt Warner, who's a solid little leadoff bat. Edward Julian down at the bottom of the board. Again, a nice little piece. But I just don't trust this lineup a ton. And then when I scroll down and I look at this pitching staff and say, maybe I can give them a little bit higher spot. They do have a nice rotation. I mean, Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober. Those are all very good pitchers. You're talking about three guys that can be towards the top of the sport when it comes to pitching, and I expect that they'll be good. What worries me is the fourth and fifth guy in this rotation are horrible. I don't trust Chris Paddock at all at this age, and I also don't trust Simeon Woods Richardson yet. He's a young player. He has potential, but I don't see it right now. You look at the bullpen. That's a good spot for them. Johan Duran, Griffin Jacks, both nice pieces. Also, a decent fan of Jorge Alcala. I like him a little bit. But to me, the reason that this team won't be very good is this injury-riddled lineup.
Yeah, and the reason I did have them third over the Royals is the pitching. Of course, I also like Sands out of their bullpen and Danny Colombe as well. So their pitching is probably definitely going to perform better than the Royals. And then they're lacking that all-star bat that you put in the lineup and you know he can get you some runs in. You know, once every few games he's going to get you an RBI in Bobby Witt. But I think if this team all shows up and is healthy, they can be a better all around unit than the Kansas City team at full health. Although I will acknowledge I do also fear for Correa, Buxton, Ty France. I don't know if those guys can still hit the way they used to. We'll see.
Yeah, and again, me moving right into my three, as you just mentioned, your three is the Twins. My three is the Royals. We've just got those two teams flipped. I think that the Royals are a pretty good baseball team all around, and I'm just really relying a lot on Bobby Witt. I guess I think that he's that MVP level player. I think that he can carry an offense that is pretty solid. I like India, like you said. You got to enjoy him a lot when he was with the Reds, a guy that does have a pretty good batting average and doesn't strike out a lot. That's important. And again, the hitter-friendly ballpark in Cincinnati never really made him a better player. He isn't a big-time power guy that puts the ball up in the air. He does get on a base a lot. Vinny Pasquantino, I'm expecting a ton from. This is a guy that I think had a very, very good potential season going, gets injured. I expect a lot from him. Salvi Perez, we know one of the best hitting catchers that we've ever got to put our eyes on, especially one of the best hitting power catchers ever. I mean, he just had a 50 home run season a few years ago. He's getting up there in age, and that definitely worries me a little bit, especially when he's playing catcher every day. Definitely a hard position to play at that age. But I just expect a lot from this lineup. I like Hunter Renfroe. I like MJ Melendez. And I don't even think Kyle Isabel is a horrible ninth guy in your rotation or lineup. And I do think the defense will be decently solid. Again, he's awesome. I mean, he's a perennial gold glove type guy at shortstop. When I look at the rotation, to me, they're comparable to the Twins. That's the reason that I have them this high. I am also still pretty high on Michael Wacha. Think he has a little bit of potential, but you look at the top two guys, and Cole Ragans is awesome. I mean, this is a guy that can win a Cy Young. He is that good at baseball. Seth Lugo, of course, maybe due for some regression. Fangraph's still very high on him as a player. I still like Seth Lugo a lot. I think that those, control guys that can just hit pitches in the zone and not maybe blow you away with their speed, they still have a lot of room to be very good in the MLB. And then you look at the bullpen. We talked about how the Twins pitching can carry them. I think this bullpen's solid. I like Carlos Estevez. That's a great signing. I like Lucas Erceg. I like Hunter Harvey down there. Again, it's a decent bullpen that I think can carry them a little bit of ways. And I do think these two teams will be really, really close. I'm just giving the edge to the Royals.
Yeah, and just to kind of give you your flowers, I really like Urseg, and of course, who doesn't like Bobby Witt? He's one of the best players in baseball, much less best shortstops. He's one of the best defenders, he's one of the best hitters, and he's one of the best base runners. So he's an all-around beast.
After that, we're going to agree for the rest of this division. So we're going to head on to number two here with the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, and this Tigers team, I don't really like their hitting either. This team might have worse hitting than the Twins and the Royals, but the pitching on this team is just absolutely insane. You got Jack Flaherty and Jackson Jobe, and I didn't even have to mention the Cy Young favorite for me, Skubal. That's a good pitching staff without mentioning a Cy Young pitcher. And then, the bullpen, not crazy, but they're definitely a good bullpen. They have some potential. They can come out there and finish some games if the starting pitchers keep the score low early.
Yeah, and again, the rotation is the key piece here. Again, this is a division filled with really good pitching. Tarek Skubal is unbelievable. He is arguably the best pitcher in the entire sport. Jack Flaherty's a phenomenal signing coming off one of his better seasons. I like Reese Olson, and I still think that the potential's there with Casey Mize. I know he's never really shown it to us, but maybe if he can get that potential, he can be a great player. And Jackson Jobe, sneaky American League Rookie of the Year for me. I'm not saying that's my pick yet, but he's definitely in the top of that list for me. And then you look at this bullpen. I have some names on here again, they're maybe not at the potential that they used to be, but a John Brebbia. A John Brebbia was a solid player for a little while. Tommy Canley, a solid player for a little while. And then again, Jason Foley being that top tier guy in their bullpen. Not the best bullpen ever, but an awesome rotation.
So we've talked about how great this Tigers pitching is, and you'd think with a great pitching staff like this, why do you have them number two? Well, their hitting isn't absolutely incredible by any means. They got Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green, two decent bats. Gleyber Torres, a guy that's played for the Yankees for years, and Spencer Torkelson is a guy that was supposed to pop off when he hit the leagues, but he's yet to really hit his potential that we thought he would. A decent lineup, but really for me, like I said, I like the Twins and Royals better as far as lineup goes. So
Yeah, and again, you talk about the lineup and being Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Gleyber Torres. That's the pieces you really got to rely on. Cole Keith is also a nice piece. And then Spencer Torkelson, like you said, a guy that was supposed to come on the scene and be one of these elite prospects, turned into a phenomenal MLB player. It didn't happen. He's just been okay. I think he still has potential. It's definitely there, but we just haven't seen it yet. And you look at their bench. The highest paid player on the entire team is Javier Baez. So he's on the bench of this baseball team, which is very unfortunate because after those Cubs years, he's been one of the worst players that we've watched. I mean, it's just unfortunate that contract was handed out to him because they finally decided to pay somebody some big money, and it was just the wrong guy. So hopefully, when that contract does end up running out, they can use some of that money to re-sign some of these younger pieces on this lineup that is okay, obviously not amazing. After that, we're moving on to the number one team in the Central. It's going to be the Cleveland Guardians.
yeah, we both have the Guardians number one, and I don't think it's a debate. This is the best batting lineup in the division. They have Quan, a good contact hitter, and when he gets on base, he has Jose Ramirez, a guy who's a switch hitter. He bats good against both sides, so there's really nothing you can do with that guy. He's going to get a lot of RBIs following up Quan, I would suspect. Then you got Santana and Bo Naylor, who both offer some good pop. This team just added Nolan Jones, who is a good defensive player, and he has potential with the bat as well. The pitching on this team is also pretty decent, in my opinion. They have Clase, who's a great bullpen arm. Cade Smith's a good bullpen arm. Seawald is a name that you used to hear with the Mariners. He was good there. I expect him to be good here as well. Gaddis is good. Don't love their starters, but they're not horrible, and I think it will be enough to win this team the division.
Yeah, I'm going to start with where you just left off. I'm going to talk about this bullpen. Like you said, Clase is the best reliever in baseball. In my personal opinion, he's a guy that could have won a Cy Young last year with how good he was as a closer. It's unbelievable. This is a guy that just had a sub 2 ERA season as a closer, was almost sub 1. He may have even been there. That's how good he was. Strikes out a ton of batters. And then you look at the rest of that bullpen. Like you said, it's unbelievable. I mean, Kate Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Paul Sewald, and then Tristan McKenzie. If you remember that name, this is a guy that was in their starting rotation for a long time, just couldn't succeed in that long inning type style of pitching. Maybe he succeeds in the bullpen in those shorter one inning type of things. I mean, again, he has a good arm, can throw some pretty good speed, and does strike out batters at an okay rate. You talk about the starting pitching, like you said, it is Tanner Bybee, and that's it. Gavin Williams is an okay pitcher, a younger guy, and then Ben Lively coming over from the Reds. Again, he had a
Same
decent
here.
yeah, he had a decent season there. So again, maybe he has some potential left in the tank. And again, I like this lineup a ton. Like you said, I mean, we're looking at Stephen Kwan, one of the highest average guys in the sport. Jose Ramirez, who is arguably I mean, this is a guy that is a Hall of Famer for sure, in my personal opinion. He's going to be part of the 300 home run, 300 steals club, which we haven't seen a couple of those guys in a little while. The stealing the bases just hasn't been up there with the power. And then again, you're talking about Kyle Manzardo, a super young piece that is going to be awesome. I think he is a very good bat. He's going to add a lot to this lineup. Carlos Santana is a nice piece. Lane Thomas is awesome. Had a great year last year. Nolan Jones, phenomenal trade for, in my opinion, love that move. They actually bring Nolan Jones back to the team after they traded him to the Rockies. So that's an interesting thing, getting him back here. grades out as the best arm in the sport. In right or left field, wherever they end up playing him, and then of course Bo Naylor is a nice little catcher piece. The bottom of this lineup, more defense than offense, but again, just love this team to repeat as the champions of the American League Central next year. Leading into the American League East, this is, of course, probably one of the best divisions in the entire sport, and we both agree with number five in this division. Going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, I'm going to start off talking about their lineup here instead of the pitching. This lineup is always young, young. That's just what the Rays are known for. They're known for bringing in young prospects, and the young prospects usually pan out for them, and they're good. I like Junior Caminero on this team. I think he gives the fans something to show up to the stadium and watch. But I don't love this team. Their hitting's not great. I think this will be one of the weaker young cores we see the Rays put out over the last 5 years. So I got this team in last for that reason, and I don't think their pitching can help that. And we'll get into their pitching in a second.
Yeah, and of course, I'm going to follow you up talking about the lineup. Yandy Diaz is sick. This guy's awesome. He's one of the most fun players to watch in the sport. This dude's dirty. He may end up on a different team at the end of this season because I think that this team isn't going to be very good. Probably end up trading him, and you know how they are when they trade. If you trade with the Tampa Bay Rays, you're getting fleeced. They know how to trade. Every year they end up adding some huge piece that nobody thought was going to be great, and they figure out how to make them great. I do like Josh Lowe. I love Brandon Lau, the Lowe and the Lau combo on this team. And then Junior Caminero, like you said, he's sick. Very, very good. Watch this guy. And then Jonathan Aranda, another young piece that's pretty solid on this team. And then I also don't hate Christopher Morel. Their lineup isn't horrible. They just don't have a superstar. Yandy is a good player, but he's definitely not a superstar. And then, like you said, going into this rotation, it's a decent rotation, right? I mean, Ryan Pepiot's nice, Taj Bradley's nice, and they've got young pieces. This team is still developing and can be very good in 3 years if all the pitching works out. I mean, again, Bradley, Rasmussen, Boss, all guys that have a lot of potential and can be great pieces. And then, of course, you look at the bullpen. Pete Fairbanks has always been really good. Expect him to have another good year. Garrett Clevenger, he pumps gas, so you're going to expect some heat from him. And Edwin Ucita is pretty solid too. But again, I just don't love this team to be super great. They will add back Ha-Seong Kim later in the year, which will improve the lineup and it will greatly improve the defense. But still, just don't expect this team to be amazing.
No, I don't expect this team to make much noise in this division either, man. I like Ryan Pepiot. That's really the only pitcher I wanted to, kind of add on to with you is I like that pitcher on this team. But outside that, this division's a tough division as well.
Yeah, and again, you're playing 20 games against each of these opponents. Another piece to talk about, of course, is Shane McClanahan. This guy's sick. I mean, he's nasty. He's one of the best pitchers in the sport. But we haven't seen him start two straight opening days due to injuries last year, due to injuries again this year. Now, again, this is a discomfort in his tricep. It's not a tear in the elbow again. That would have been obviously very scary to lose him for 2 straight years on Tommy John surgery. They're saying maybe misses 6 to 8 weeks. Very unfortunate to lose your best pitcher right before the season starts as he just got hurt in spring training. It was a very scary moment, but it does appear to not be a long-term injury. And when they get him back, the rotation will actually be pretty solid, filled with young players. Again, like you said, though, just don't expect a ton out of this team in this division. Rolling on to the fourth place team in this division, we both agree on this one. It's going to be the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and this is going to be one of the most fun teams to watch that I have placed fourth. This team should bat really well. I mean, you look at the 4, 5, 6 spot of Jimenez, Kirk, and Springer. I think that's really good for a 4, 5, 6. Now, the 7, 8, 9 spot, I won't. I'll let you talk about those guys. But I really like this team's 1, 2, 3. I expect Bo Bichette to have a bounce back year. So a hitting team is always fun to watch, but it also always sucks to watch your pitchers cost you games. And I just don't trust Kevin Gausman at this point. Scherzer's getting too old, and they're gonna want him to pitch every 5 games. So I don't know. I think Scherzer's a little past his prime, and I think this team is a little bit too talented to be finishing fourth. But it's where I got them.
Yeah, and again, it's the division. That's the reason they're down here. Maybe if they're in that American League Central, we'd be talking about them in the middle of the pack, third or second. It's just a tough division. Again, you talk about this lineup. It's awesome. I mean, Bo Bichette is coming off the worst year of his career by a long shot. Sub 600 OPS guy. Did not bat good at all. Just had a really bad season. Some of that due to the really horrible start he got, and then due to the injury as well. Only playing in 81 games last year. And again, Fangraphs is not very high on them, and a lot of their projections come off the season before, and they do account for the year as well before that. Again, it just worries me a little bit if that strikeout rate stays as high as it was. We can look at a guy in Bo Bichette who's it maybe changes his career path, which started out really great as a hitter. Then you move on to Vlad Guerrero. This is an MVP level player. He is phenomenal. He busted back onto the scene last year. Again, had a little bit of a slow start, but come on, was a really great player. Also love Anthony Santander. A great piece to add on from Baltimore. Switch hitting monster that is going to be one of the best bats in the American League, probably. And then again, you mentioned those guys 4 through 6 already. I'll talk about 7, 8, and 9. It's not a lot to talk about. Rodon is young. He can be solid, but again, it's not a lot. That's the bottom half of the lineup being pretty bad in a strong division. And then we talk about Miles Straw coming off the bench, a guy that has a little bit of potential coming over from Cleveland, an older player that maybe brings you a veteran presence, but he really isn't projected to do well this season. You do look at that rotation. Like you said, you're relying a lot on Kevin Gausman and Max Scherzer. These guys are aging. This whole team is aging when you talk about the pitching staff. Chris Bassett is 36 years old. Jose Barrios is 31 years old. It's just not great to have all your pitching be that old. And then you look at a bullpen that added a piece in Jeff Hoffman, who's sick. Love Jeff Hoffman, amazing reliever, one of the better ones in the sport. Chad Green and Yimi Garcia, both solid pieces as well. But again, it's just a really weak overall pitching staff, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like Yemi. I like Hoffman, but like you said, overall, not really anything to write home about. The only thing I think we disagree on with this team is you're a little bit more scared than me on Bo Bichette. I think Bo Bichette will bounce back. I think he would have bounced back by the end of the year last year and made his stats look a little bit better. Still would have been a down year, but without injury, I think it looks a little better. So I'm high on him.
Yeah, and last thing to mention again, you're looking at some injuries for this team. Alek Manoah, maybe he returns to the one he used to be. I mean, this guy was sick for a year and just fell off the map. Then Dalton Varsho. Dalton Varsho is a nice little piece that can come back and add a little bit of bat to this lineup. Again, shoulder surgery, not sure how long he's out for. I don't expect it to be the full season, having this surgery back last year. But when he comes back, he does add a little bit to the lineup. But again, I just don't expect him to be very high up in this division as it is so good. After this, going into the third spot in this division, we have a bit of a disagreement here, so I'll let you go ahead and talk about your third place team of the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, this is a team I absolutely love. Maggard can attest to the fact that I like Gunnar Henderson. I have him above Bobby Witt Jr. even. I mean, he might not have proved it yet, but I really like the young players on this team. Westberg's great. Rutschman is, great defensively and good offensively as well. Colton Cowser is a promising young bat. Ryan O'Hearn has some power. The team, I like it all around as far as the lineup goes, and it's really up in the air for me. Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles. I think any three of those teams could win the division if it goes right for them.
Yeah, and I'll lead you right into this pitching staff as well, because that's obviously a talking point for this team.
Yeah, I like Zach Eflin in the starting lineup. He should do all right. Charlie Morton is a good pitcher. It's just not great. There's no real ace in the lineup. And then same story goes. Well, sorry, same story isn't going with Bautista is definitely an ace in the bullpen. But outside Bautista, they got some good bullpen arms. Yenier Cano, I like him, but outside that, it's not going to be enough to get them over the Red Sox and Yankees, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and talk about my third place team here in the New York Yankees. I'm a little bit lower than you are on this team. I think the Garrett Cole injury is very scary. And again, this is not dissing the Yankees. This is a team that I still think probably ends up in the playoffs. That's how good this division is. It's very hard to win this division, and when you lose a piece like Garrett Cole, it's extremely difficult to win this division. You look at this lineup. Still sick. I mean, it's still a good lineup. And you lost Juan Soto. Austin Wells is a nice catcher. Aaron Judge is the best hitter in the entire sport. This guy is sick. He's repeatedly going to hit 50 home runs if he's playing in that stadium in New York. I mean, right field is literally a little league field. Again, he's going to crush homers all year. Cody Bellinger, love him playing in this ballpark. It's also going to help him out a lot. I expect some production from him. Just had a phenomenal spring training, batting over 400. And then you look at a guy like Paul Goldschmidt, an older piece that does he have anything left in the tank? I'm not sure. Last year was his worst year in the last 10 years. And then Jazz Chisholm, a player that has a ton of pop. I mean, he has the ability to be this awesome superstar level player. And then he has times where he really struggles. So it'll be interesting to see what version of Chisholm do we get. And then the last piece of this team is relying on young players. You're looking at 6 through 9 in this lineup being pieces that were a part of this Yankees organization. You're talking about Volpe, Dominguez, Ben Rice, and Oswaldo Cabrera, all drafted by the Yankees, all either drafted or signed by the Yankees. And they're expecting a lot out of young guys. To me, that just hurts them a little bit in an experienced division. And even though I think that these guys can succeed at a high level, it worries me just because of their age. You look at the rotation. Again, this is a good rotation still without Garrett Cole. And again, you got Carlos Rodon, Max Fried, Marcus Stroman. Those are nice pieces. Max Fried, if you know, again, I said it before, I'm a Braves fan. Max Fried is sick. He's probably the best lefty in the sport. That's coming from a biased opinion as a Braves fan. But just look at the stats. He backs it up with how good he's been the last 4 years. He is their ace now. It definitely doesn't hurt the fact that you got him in free agency, although you lost your best pitcher. And then you look at this bullpen. Luke Weaver was sick last year. You added Devin Williams to that. Devin Williams, again, coming off a phenomenal season, known as one of the best closers in the sport. He'll come in here and bring them a much needed lift in the bullpen. Fernando Cruz is also nice. Looking at injuries to talk about, Giancarlo Stanton is going to have surgery on his arm potentially. If he does, he's done. No season, he's out. Maybe get him back for the playoffs when you get there. That hurts them a lot, in my opinion, in this race. And then DJ LeMahieu, again, a piece that it's only a strained calf. He can probably come back from that a little bit sooner than later. And then we're looking at Luis Hill in the rotation. Again, strained lat. That's a thing that he can come back from relatively soon. He was really, really good last year in the running for, of course, winning that Rookie of the Year. And then Clark Schmidt's also a nice little piece sitting on the injury list. But until those guys come back, I really worry about the bottom half of this rotation. That's why I have them sitting in third. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Baltimore because I have them at 2. Hoppy, of course, just mentioned them at 3, and I'm just going to kind of repeat what he said. Lineup is pretty awesome. It's a lot of really good young players. Colton Cowser, expect Jackson Holliday to bounce back this year. They've got pieces coming out of the minors all the time that's going to produce for this team. Of course, Rushman and Henderson. We need Rushman to be more, consistent this year. At times last year he struggled, but Gunner's sick. He is easily one of the best shortstops in the sport. I would have him directly behind Bobby at shortstop. I'm not just as high as Hoppy is, but they're obviously both great players. And then you look at this rotation. You mentioned it. I'm going to say it again. I cannot believe this team didn't go pay a starter. I just can't believe it. You're talking about a team that you're already not paying. A multitude of your great players aren't on big contracts. You've got money right now, and you don't go sign, a Blake Snell. You don't bring back a Corbin Burns. You don't go get a Max Fried. How do you miss out on that many big-time pitchers in one free agency and not help out this team? To me, I just hate what they've done with the rotation. If they would have expanded upon this rotation, this is a team that could very easily have won this division because that lineup is sick. They did add Tomoyuki Sagano from the Japanese league. Again, a great player in that league. He's just older at this point. And then again, you talked about the bullpen. This bullpen's sick. It might be the best in the division, competing with that Yankees bullpen. Bautista, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Keegan Aiken, Yanier Cano, Gregory Soto. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. These are guys that are very good relievers and have a ton of potential. Again, looking at Gunner on the injury report right now, has been out since February 27th. I think he's going to make the opening day roster. If he doesn't, hopefully get him back pretty soon. And then the big boost for them will be this rotation. Kyle Bradish is coming back from Tommy John surgery. Not 100% sure when they're going to get him back, but they expect him at some point down the line. And then Grayson Rodriguez. Elbow inflammation is very scary. What does that lead to a lot of the time? Tommy John or brace surgery. If he is available to go, Grayson Rodriguez is a really nice young piece that can really boost this rotation, and I'm banking on him coming back. That's why I have them at number 2 in the division. Hoppy, I'll go ahead and lead into your number 2 team in this division in the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, I got the Boston Red Sox sitting number 2 in this division. I think they got a really good team all around. I like their pitching. I like their bullpen, but their hitting especially I do like. I think Trevor Story can have a bounce back year. I've not given up on him yet. I like their young bats and Christian Campbell. He's got a sick card on MLB The Show. If any of y'all play that, get that card. Alex Bregman still has potential. He was really good on the Astros, I believe, when he played there. Rafael Devers gets to play DH now. I mean, we're talking about one of the best hitters in baseball, getting to focus solely on hitting. He don't have to go try to get better at third base anymore. that helps a lot, not only mentally but just physically with him getting to practice batting more. And I just really like their lineup all around.
Yeah, and again, I'll let you talk about this rotation real quick because you know where they're going to be on my list, so you might as well go ahead and mention them.
Yeah, like I said up there earlier, I like this pitching on this team. They got some good starters. They got Garrett Crochet in a trade not long ago. He's a really good ace. Tanner Hawk was their ace last year. He's still a good pitcher now. I like Walker Bueller more than
Yeah.
266th ranked personally. And then, of course, I've been a Chapman fan for a long time. He used to pitch for my favorite team, the Cincinnati Reds. So I like him as a closer still. He's old, but he did good last year, so I think he can keep it up. Really, really decent bullpen all around behind him, backing it up as well.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go ahead and let you lead into your number one team in this division. I've already spoke about them, the New York Yankees.
Well, I think the Yankees need a lot to go right to win one here, but I picked them to win number one because I'm expecting Volpe and Jason Dominguez to really step up this year. And also, I don't think Cole getting injured hurts them as much as other people think it will. They still have a really good starting pitching rotation, especially like you mentioned earlier, if Luis Gill can come back, that will help them a lot. So they got some good pitching down there still. And let's look at the bullpen real quick here. I like their bullpen as well. Like you said, Fernando Cruz, he throws some gas. Luke Weaver, he throws some gas. And they just signed Devin Williams. I like this team a lot. I picked them first place. I think they need a lot of luck to go right for them to get first place, but I think it can definitely happen.
Yeah, and to cap what you said real quick about this Yankees team, I think that you're right. It has to go right. You have to have young players play well. Mentioned that when I was talking about them. And then leading into my number one team here in the Boston Red Sox. I guess I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I think that the additions that they made to me, it just makes me want to pick them. The reason I don't pick the Orioles, what did they not do? They don't go out and add any pieces. They don't make their team better. The Red Sox said, we want to win. We want to win, and we want to win now. They go out and they sign Walker Bueller, a piece that is awesome. He's killed it in spring training. I really wanted the Braves to add him as a pitcher. They get Garrett Crochet via trade. This is a guy that is a legit ace. He's a lefty. Again, in that conversation with Max Fried as being one of the best in that position at the lefty spot. And they're getting back a guy later in the year in Brian Bayo, who's very, very good. Again, shoulder soreness scares me a little bit, but Brian Bayo is really, really nice. Cutter Crawford is a really nice piece as well. Had a great season last year. And even Lucas Giolito that can add depth to that starting rotation. That's what makes this team a little bit better. Hopefully for the future, those guys get healthy. If they don't, my pick might be wrong because those guys are going to be relying on them to get healthy for to this team to get a lot better. And then you talked about the lineup. One guy you didn't talk a ton about, Jarren Duran. He's sick. Jarren Duran is awesome. This is a guy that won the All-Star Game MVP last year. And if we're talking about All-Star games, the only one that means anything anymore is the MLBs. They actually go out there and play it and really care about it. And he was sick in that game. You could tell how much it meant to him to get that done, get that win. And again, he's just a really good player, great fielder. Fangraphs obviously loves him, having him ranked as 11th. And then Devers is sick, man. You're talking about a guy that doesn't have to focus on defense anymore. He can just focus on hitting. I think he has the potential to go be one of the best hitters in the entire sport. And then I love Bregman. This team was a bad defensive infield due to Devers. Gets 10 times better. Alex Bregman will save them a lot at that position. They add Tristan Casas. You mentioned the young players. And then Trevor Story, a last piece. You thought he's going to get a lot better. I agree with you. Trevor Story is way too good to be as bad as he was. He's bouncing back. I expect a lot from him after that injury last year. You talked about the rotation already. It's amazing. And then the bullpen. Liam Hendriks, a guy that had cancer. It's a really cool story. Him coming back. Hopefully he's as good as he once was. Again, I love this guy. So, so good when he was pitching before that, the cancer stint. And then, of course, they have Justin Slatton, which I really like. And Whitlock's a solid little piece as well in this bullpen. Now that we've talked about every division and who we think's going to win them all, we're going to look at our playoffs. Hoppy, you're first.
So obviously my division winner picks were the Rangers, the Yankees, and the Guardians. So let's talk about these wild card teams. I think the Red Sox and the Orioles will both make the playoffs this year, coming out of the same division as the Yankees. Of course, you picked the Red Sox to win that division. Want to let them know that here. Um, but I think the Red Sox are definitely still going to make the playoffs either way, even if they don't win the division. They have a great hitting cast with good pitching. I like Duran. I think Story will bounce back, like I said. And then the Orioles. This is a team in the Orioles. If they would have signed a pitcher, like you said earlier, this team probably would have been my choice for the team to win. They're a little bit young, but I like all of their young bats, so that doesn't hurt them too bad. And let's talk about those were the five locks for me. This Tigers team was a team I had to think about, and I just ended up picking them because Skubal is a world beater. He's maybe going to win Cy Young this year. And then I like Jackson Jobe a lot. I expect him to pop off and be a top 20 pitcher. They also have Jack Flaherty and a decent bullpen as well. So I picked them to go ahead and fill in that last wild card spot.
Yeah, and now taking a look at mine, I'm pretty much agreeing with you on the Rangers being the best team in the American League. I really love that baseball team. Think they're going to be very, very good this year. And then I, of course, have the Boston Red Sox winning that division, so I've got them at number two. Again, I think that whole division could be better than the American League Central. Well, one, two, and three. Cleveland obviously sitting at the three spot, winning that division. You look at my wild card, I'm higher on the Orioles than I am the Yankees, but I still think the Yankees are very good, and I think the Yankees will make the playoffs. Just don't think they're going to get it done in the division. And then my last team, like you said, top five are locks. My last team is the Seattle Mariners. In the same exact reason that you picked the Tigers, I'm picking the Mariners. I trust the pitching staff. And this pitching staff has the potential to be one through five all-star level pitchers. Brian Wu would be the only one you could argue that isn't, because when Logan Gilbert comes back, that's just a disgusting rotation. And of course, if J-Rod is back on to being the guy he was 2 years ago, I think he can carry that offense. Cal Raleigh's a nice little piece, and I just think the Mariners are the last team that will sneak into the playoffs in the American League. Thank you guys so much for watching this one. Of course, the beginning mentioned that we're going to be talking about both sides, so this is the American League. It's going to be a longer video, so I'm going to shorten it down, split it into two videos. So stay tuned, pay attention. The next one will be coming out right after you get done watching this one. So hopefully you'll want to watch the National League as well. Hope you liked our opinions enough over here. Hoppy, if there's anything else you want to add about the American League.
Yeah, I think that this league is pretty good at the top with the Rangers. Really, really good lineup over there. I think this side of the league has really good pitching as well. Some of the best pitching can be seen on this side of the league. But overall, I think the National League has better teams, and I'm very excited to talk about them. And I hope all the people that are watching this video will head on over to that video. Hopefully, it's linked down in the description below, or you can just look on our channels and find it there.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys so much for watching, paying attention to us. Like and subscribe, follow along. I'm going to drop the National League video right after. So again, it's going to be there. If you want to go ahead and slide over and watch that one after this one. And then look for opening day of Major League Baseball on the 27th. We're going to release our award winners. So we're going to talk about who we think will get it done, who's going to be the best players on both sides, who's going to be the best young players. And that'll obviously be a really fun video. Go over and check out Hoppy's channel. Hoppy2345, I believe, is the channel name on that side. You pay attention to him. He's got a lot more subscribers than we do over here. So he's really rolling on that side of things. And again, stay tuned for us. Really enjoy it. It's so much fun. Baseball season is definitely one of my favorite times of the year. That's why I've got Hoppy on here as well, as of course he loves baseball. And maybe those Reds, maybe in the National League video, we'll be talking about them sneaking in the back end of that playoffs. And peace.
Peace.